Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome back to another Villa on Tour video. It feels like it's been a good while since we've done one of these. I'm joined by Simon. How are you, mate? You all good?
Yeah, I'm all good, not too bad. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. If you're wondering where I am, I'm in absolutely glorious Tenerife. It's about 26, 27 degrees at the moment. I'm here inside it. The weather, it's not great in the UK. It's a bit grey, pretty cold, not great.
Yeah. Honestly, like yesterday, it was freezing. I honestly considered putting the heating on yesterday. And we're on the 3rd of July today. It's absolutely mad.
I do apologise then, making everybody jealous of my beautiful surroundings. I'm having a great time back on Sunday, so having a nice sort of 9 or 10 days over here before the season properly kicks off. It kind of feels like the Barron season now is kind of finished. It feels like June is pretty quiet. I mean, it wasn't for Villa this year, but just in general, I mean, the Euros have been on, they've been okay at times, but it feels like July. You're getting excited for Warsaw away, Slovakia, Dortmund, America as well. We're not going to that, but we're going to the other two abroad European games. It feels like football is just around the corner now.
Yeah, it starts to get going in July, doesn't it? It tends to be a bit dry, a bit quiet in June. Although obviously end of June this year was a little bit different in terms of PSR and clubs scrambling around a little bit. But yeah, June tends to be a little bit quiet, and so yeah, July rolls around. The players return to training very soon, and then we're straight into pre-season action, and then before we know it, you know what happens. Pre-season starts, and before you know it, you're there at West Ham on the first day of the season. So yeah, it won't be long. We're through the worst of it anyway.
Loving it, yeah. Can't wait for it all to come back. Basically, this video is just going to be a bit of a transfer chat. Talk about the players that have already come in, and there's quite a few of them. Talk about what we could expect in the rest of the window as well, because especially when the Euros end, it feels like it could start to kick off a little bit. Dominoes could fall, and we could see a little bit more action, incomings and outgoings of Aston Villa, so we'll talk a little bit about that. If you do want to enjoy the video, please do smash a like on it. If we can go big and hit 1,000 likes, that'll be unbelievable. Subscribe if you haven't already to the channel. I know it's been pretty quiet on Villa on Tour during the summer. There's not a lot we can do. I don't really care too much about the Euros, especially watching some pretty dreadful England games. It's been pretty quiet, so I thought I'd have a little break on the channel, and obviously when Slovakia and Warsaw and then Dortmund rolls around, the content will come back. So do stay tuned, do stay with the channel. A lot to come this season. It's going to be a big season. Can't wait. Just one last little bit of admin as well. This is available on YouTube as well as audio only platforms. So if you are watching on YouTube, feel free to take us for a walk or listen in the car on podcast platforms, link in the description, or on the other side of things, if you are listening in the car, whatever, and you want to see our beautiful faces, this is on YouTube as well. So pretty general question to start then, Si. Happy with the business so far? Don't want to go too deep too early, but it's been fairly unique because I don't know, Villa are quite late to do a lot of things when it comes to kits, signings, whatever, but especially with the PSR stuff, I don't want to get too deep into it because I'm bored of talking about it now, but a lot has gone on already in June.
Yeah, it's been it's been really busy already, hasn't it? And so I think if you look at Villa's business, I think I'm a little bit torn. I'm a little bit mixed. I think that I think in terms of the deals that we could have got done, in terms of the PSR situation, obviously we had to sell one of our big players, and I think we debated this a lot last season, didn't we? Which one would you prefer to lose? And I think that was Douglas Luiz, out of all of the ones that we could have lost. However, that doesn't mean that it's not sad that we've lost him. And so, yeah, it's a bit mixed for me. I think we've lost one of our big hitters, so I don't want to sit here and say, absolutely fantastic, we got rid of Douglas Luiz, because it's not like that at all. But I think in terms of we knew we had to do a deal to be compliant on PSR, and so I think if you look at it, I think it's probably the best out of a bad situation that we've ended up doing. Obviously, the two lads coming in from Juve, we don't know too much about. I suppose that they've obviously both got a lot of potential. Illing Jr. obviously playing over here for Chelsea before he went to Juve, and then the other lad, again, don't know much about him. We know he's a defensive midfielder, something that we've kind of been crying out for a little bit in the absence of Kamara. Everyone's been talking about how we've needed a backup defensive midfielder, and so hopefully he'll come in and settle and make a difference as well. And then obviously in terms of the other business, obviously we bought Maatsen in from Chelsea, and obviously he had a great real sort of breakthrough season last season on loan at Dortmund, got to the Champions League final, and then obviously he's been away at the Euros, and then obviously the other one is Lewis Dobbin, which again, it sounds like it's very much a PSR deal, but again, a high ceiling, a potential again, and I think that's kind of what Villa's strategy this summer is to target these sort of young players with a lot of sort of resale value, because I think this is the world we're living in when clubs are trying to become self-sufficient essentially, and are buying players to sort of develop them and sell them on for a profit. And so I kind of feel like that's what Lewis Dobbin he's all about, really. And he comes in, he'll offer something a little bit different, trying to get in behind the defence and coming in off that wing. And so something we haven't got a lot of. I think we've said that we haven't got loads of wingers, and so he adds something. Then obviously Ross Barkley coming in as well, and we all know Ross Barkley had a great season last year at Luton. And I think that's just a sensible signing. I think for the money that we've paid and for what we'll get out of him, I think it'll suit Emery's system. So yeah, reasonably happy. I think we've done the best what we could do so far. I think there are gaps in there, and so I'm sure we'll talk about that. But yeah, reasonably happy, I'd say. You never want to lose one of your big players, but if you do, you need to try and make the best out of that bad situation that's come your way. So yeah, I'd say reasonably happy.
Yeah, I think it's about recognising sort of Villa's specific context and situation. Yes, we kind of did have to sell one of our big players, but I think we have negotiated that as well. You talked about the age profile of the players coming in. Out of the 5 coming in, you've got a 22, 20-year-old, 21, 23, and obviously Ross Barkley is the anomaly there, him being 30, but you need that bit of experience. He's coming in, he knows the club already, he knows some of the players, so that's a sort of no-brainer. That's going to work, hopefully. I haven't jinxed that. Just before we do look a little bit deeper into some of the players that we've signed already, here's a quick message from today's video sponsor. Yes, this video is very kindly sponsored by the wonderful people over at Surfshark VPN. Surfshark is a virtual private network which keeps you safe online by encrypting all of the data sent between your device and the internet, mainly to keep your personal data protected from big companies or cyber criminals. Also, Surfshark can swap the virtual location of your device to anywhere across the world, which can open you up to watch so much more stuff on Netflix, and it's been really helpful for me here, obviously being abroad, being able to watch BBC iPlayer and ITVX, which you wouldn't normally be able to do. So it's been proper easy to watch the Euros. I've been loving it. But back to the security benefits of Surfshark. It's been crucial for me, obviously, using that hotel Wi-Fi. It's not properly encrypted, and it is really easy for hackers to see into what you're doing if you are on that public network. So Surfshark has been proper useful to make sure nobody can see what I'm doing online at all. Another example is Surfshark's clean web feature. This blocks ads, trackers, malware and phishing attempts, meaning you can use the internet safely and also put your mind at rest. So if any of that sounds good to you, use my code VillaOnTour to get an extra 4 months for free over at Surfshark. It's a great deal over there and helps support the channel as well, and genuinely I use it and it is fantastic. Use that top link in the description to get yourself a great deal over at Surfshark. So who's come in then? Like you said, Matson, Illing Jr., Dobbin, Enzo, I'm going to try and pronounce his last name, Baranachea. I hope, well, I'll begin to learn that, but we'll call him Enzo as it goes. Barkley, and then Louise, Kellyman and Tim going out. I think you've got to give Villa a bit of credit, like I said, is context of the situation. Sort of getting 30 million for those 2 youth players in Kellyman and Tim for what brought in for less than $1 million. I think that's pretty spot on. Do you think we've got away with it for a few years now in terms of not losing any of our big names? I think it's always going to be a little bit unrealistic to keep bringing in 3, 4, 5, 6 players every summer and just keeping and stockpiling. So it was going to happen eventually, but I think the way we've done it has been pretty good in terms of, yes, you've lost Louise, but also you've got that 30 million in a way out of nowhere for Kellyman and Tim, and no one likes to lose their academy players, but that's the way the system's set up. It kind of encourages that as pure profit. So I think the way we've done it in terms of losing Louise and that 30 million that sort of nobody really acknowledged. So when we were talking about this a month or 2 ago, I think we've done pretty well there.
Yeah, I think it's definitely helped us. I think we all know the Louise deal is what got us compliant on PSR, and then I think Kellyman and Annie Rogueman have kind of added to that, and so it's given Villa a little bit of a buffer in terms of they can now hopefully go out and do a little bit more business sort of this summer. In terms of whether it will mean another big player has to be sold at some point, it won't be this summer. I think that's the one thing I'd say. I don't think it'll be this summer. I think Villa have got a little bit of room to manoeuvre imminently, kind of thing, but with one eye sort of on PSR still for next summer as well, and so Villa won't want to go absolutely crazy this summer, because then they'll find themselves in a position where next May or June that they need to look at selling maybe a couple of sort of really big players again. And I think from looking at some of the financials that people have been sort of modelling and looking at, it looks like there might be a little bit of a void again next summer potentially, which would obviously, it might need another sort of player sale. How much I'm not too sure. Whether that means looking at more youth players, maybe another youth player that steps up, or looking at a more senior player, we don't know. But there's so many variables with that. It depends on where you finish in the league. It depends on your performance in the Champions League, in the domestic cups. It really does depend, and it depends whether Villa's sort of revenue streams grow off the field as well, and obviously that's what they are trying to do. So I think I think we were immediately out of danger in terms of PSR, without a doubt. But I still think it will rear its head in the next 12 months or so until Villa become that sort of consistent sort of top 4, top 5 side that we're trying to be. I think until that happens, and until our revenue streams grow, and I think until Villa get their wage bill down, which I know will be a prime aim this summer. I think you look at Villa's transfer business and it tends to centre around younger players this summer. And I think another main reason for that is because they generally come on lower wages, and I think you'll be looking at the likes of a Coutinho, Luka Dean, Dendoncker. They'll be looking to get these types of players out the door, and it's not just because of the instant money they'll bring in terms of a transfer fee or anything like that. It's primarily because of the wages. They're on such high wages, and there's little room for them to grow either because of their age, obviously. And so I think Villa are taking a little bit of a different strategy. So they're out of the woods for now. But obviously this kind of thing never goes away. It's on a rolling sort of 3-year cycle, and I think the danger for Villa next year or this season coming is that obviously the Grealish money which Villa have been relying on for the last couple of years, that sort of drops out of the forecasting, out of the accounts kind of thing. And so I think there'll be more challenges on the horizon, but for now I think it's not at the forefront of everyone's mind. It's just something to think about as we progress further throughout this summer and sort of into January.
Yeah, just talking about the Grealish money there, a little bit of context around that. Basically, if you don't know, Villa, well, Premier League clubs are allowed to make a loss of £105 million across a 3-year period, and obviously that's more than 3 years ago now, so that's completely wiped off, and losing as big a fee as pure £100 million, that's going to make Villa have to think a little bit more. Obviously, we saw that Villa tried to make that £135 million, which got rejected by the rest of the Premier League, so it's something that we're going to probably talk about every summer and every transfer window for the next couple of years, which is annoying because as fans, I remember we did a video similar to this last year and there was no mention of PSR or FFP, but it's something that we've got to sort of educate ourselves in and sort of just think about a little bit further going forward in the next few transfer windows and beyond. So I think we are going to see signing sort of like a Lewis Dobbin, where fans might see it and think, oh, Tim's gone that way, Lewis Dobbin's come the other way, what's the point in that? But it's in terms of, yes, you can spread a player coming in's fee across however long their contract is, where if you get Tim out and on the books, that's a pure 9 or 10 or whatever, however much it was, that's coming in immediately. So that's why it makes a difference. And yes, on the face of it, it's one player that way, one player that way. What's the difference? That's the difference, and it's all about the books, which is frustrating. So I don't think Lewis Dobbin coming in is going to be a instant impact. Yes, we've got a clear role for him. This is what he's going to do. He's going to play this many games. Probably is just a financial thing, probably, in terms of, unless he comes in and makes an impact like a Morgan Rogers, where it's like, wow, okay, fair enough, we didn't expect this. He's probably only going to play 7, 8, 9 times this season, and then you reassess it next year, in 2 years, and then maybe you do flog him off for a little bit more or whatever. So it's an interesting one, and you're probably not expecting all these players to come in and make an impact immediately. Talked about Lewis Dobbin there. It's probably not worth chatting about too much unless, like I said, he comes in and does really well. Hopefully he does. Ross Barkley's an interesting one, and when that first got rumoured, I was a huge fan of it. I said it on Twitter. I was like, yes, big fan of this. Proving himself with Luton last season in a poor side, still did really well. Obviously, Louise and Kamara not being available this season for different reasons. Obviously, Louise is gone, but Kamara not being available till probably the end of 2024. Huge miss. Those two, when they played together on the whole, were absolutely fantastic. So not having those two, you've got a big shift in that midfield now in this transfer window. And Ross Barkley, I think, is a great addition. £5 million, pretty much guaranteed. Been at Villa already, like I said earlier. Knows the club, knows the players. Going to be under Unai Emery. I think Unai Emery makes players better, doesn't he? So I think this is 100% a great, I'm going to say guaranteed because you never know, but I think this is as nailed on a decent signing, shrewd signing as you're going to get.
Yeah, and I think he'll suit how Villa play under Unai Emery. I think we all know he's very good on the ball, he's very good at dribbling, driving forward, and that's kind of what Emery likes in his midfield players. And so I think he'll be really good, and I think it's a very low risk signing for Villa. Mm-hmm. It's such a low fee. We know what he is. He's experienced. He's got aspirations to still make it into that England squad. You know, he probably wasn't far off, to be fair, in terms of the Euros this summer. And I think fair play to Barkley because he sort of rejuvenated his career after he left Chelsea, didn't he? Obviously, he went to France for a year, and then he joins Luton, and he was undoubtedly their sort of best player last season. And so, look, I think it's low risk, and I think when you look at it, I think Villa have had probably a tough ask this summer because they're trying to improve on the quality in the first 11, but then also improve the quality of the strength in depth that they've got as well. Because I think towards the end of last season you saw it. We had Chambers in midfield and Weidman at times, and then early on in the season you had Dendoncker there. And I think when you look at it at that level, Barkley's better than all of them, absolute country mile ahead of all of them. And so I think he'll be really good. I think he'll play a lot of games. I do. I don't think he'll be a first choice starter every week. I don't, but I think he'll play a lot of games. And so I think for the low fee that he's cost and what he brings, then I think it was a real sort of no brainer by the club. And so yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing him back with us, definitely.
Yeah, I like the profile of him as well. Obviously, he's a bigger lad. He's sort of being able to drive with the ball, dribbling on the transition. He's over 6 foot. I think it's well known Villa haven't got a lot of players. We probably have got a few more now. Obviously, with the players we brought in, we'll touch on that. But he's a bit of height in the midfield. Goals as well. A lot of people are saying, yeah, Luiz is probably the one you'd pick out to lose, but he scored 9 Premier League goals last season. Like that's huge. Barkley scored 5 in 32 for Luton. Hopefully he can sort of get higher, maybe match those Luiz numbers as well. But you take those goals out of Villa's side and they need to be replaced. So I think that's a huge factor as well. Really, really like the Barkley signing. Like you said, is he going to be a first team option week in, week out? Probably not, but we talk about that strength in depth, and that was such a huge topic last year. There's been more games this year, 8 guaranteed in the Champions League, potentially more. You need that depth, and it's looking a little bit better than last season, because towards the end of last season it was desperate, wasn't it? Really, really desperate at times. I think someone else that's really interesting is the Enzo lad coming in from Juventus. Is he going to be that direct replacement for Kamara for the next few months? I don't know. I think it's really interesting. Like you said earlier, he's such an unknown. You just don't know. It was quite an interesting thing to hear that the under-19 coach from Juventus, Andrea Benetti, this comes from John Townley on Twitter, Enzo is a really strong player, no different from Rodri or Busquets. He has aerial game, knowledge, covers the pitch well, has great technique, dominance under pressure, and now he's much more complete. Interesting. Do you reckon he's going to come in and play? I think it's hard to say at the moment, isn't it? But with that Kamara role missing massively, he's going to probably have a role to play earlier on in the season.
Yeah, I think he will. I think that quote makes me laugh though. He's no different to Rodri or Busquets.
In his style.
I know, but it's just the quote makes me laugh. It sounds like we've signed an absolute world beater for sort of €8 million, which would be incredible. But no, I mean, in all seriousness, I think he'll get game time. I don't know if he'll be in as a first choice from the very beginning of the season. I think you know what Emery likes to do. He likes to sort of play it safe and integrate these players a little bit more slowly. I think when you look at last season, he tried to do that with Torres, didn't he? Until Mings obviously got injured on the first day of the season. And so I wouldn't expect him to be first choice straight away. And it depends on how he settles and how he adapts essentially to Premier League football. But he is a defensive midfielder. He's an out-and-out defensive midfielder who is in that sort of mould of sort of Kamara, I suppose. And so we haven't had that. And I think, as you say, we've really missed Kamara. And he has had his injury troubles at Villa, and so to get someone in that mould who could come in and potentially replace Kamara, I think that's a really good sort of transfer. Look, I don't know anything about him. I've never ever seen him play, and so reserve judgment. But looking at the sort of profile of the player he looks like something that we needed. I think we all said coming into the summer we need to get a defensive midfielder, because if Kamara's going to be out until October, November time, we haven't really got anybody to play that role. And yeah, you can drop McGinn and Tielemans back, but they don't play that Kamara role. And so I think he'll add something, definitely. I think it'll be interesting. I think we need to see him first. But I think he'll add something, definitely, and I think it's because of his profile and exactly where he plays, and I'm sure that will help him. And again, he's very young, and but he's played a lot of football. Though he's a young man who's played a lot of football, and that's the thing. And with such a high sort of potential sort of ceiling, again, it's another one for Villa to, if he starts to play well, as players tend to improve under Emery, he's another one which you've only paid €8 million for, and you can end up making you a sort of a huge profit again in the future, and that's what Villa are looking to do.
Yeah, he was one of the better players in the Italian side that he played in last season that got relegated on loan from Juventus, so that's a positive. Sort of similar to Luiz vibes when he came in. Obviously a very, very young player. Obviously Enzo's a little bit older than Luiz was when he came into Villa, but sort of a better player that was out on loan, the standout coming in. I think it's sort of well set up at Villa. Obviously Martinez, another Argentinian, Buendia's there as well. Plenty of Spanish speakers at Villa. Obviously Unai Emery and his whole coaching staff are pretty much all Spanish, so that'll help him settle in hopefully a little bit. That's probably a simplistic way to look at it, but it's little things like that, isn't it, that he's coming in and he's got Spanish speakers around him. Martinez is obviously around the Argentina squad. He'll take him under his wing, so that's a positive. I think definitely something that's major is the left-hand side that's coming in now, like it's very populated left hand side is a simple way of putting it. Illing Jr. coming in more weight to that left wing position. Maatsen coming in at left back. It probably says that we are going to lose a left back, but Maatsen coming in. Want to talk about him a little bit. Probably, well, he was in the Champions League team of the season, wasn't he? At left back, had a phenomenal season at Dortmund. Didn't play too much in the league. I think 16 league appearances, but 7 in the Champions League. You remember those goals in the Champions League scored against Atletico Madrid. A much shorter player, quicker player on that left hand side, can get up and down. Excited for this one.
Yeah, and that's it. And in terms of his stats in the Bundesliga, to be fair, he only came in halfway through the season anyway, and so yeah, he had a really strong season for Dortmund last year, and I remember him watching him in the quarters, and he scored in the quarter final of the Champions League, didn't he? And obviously he was a big part of that Dortmund team, and they obviously wanted to bring him in permanently, but I don't think they could find the funds that it would have taken to brought him in, so he's ended up at Villa, and a really exciting signing. Again, really young, a really sort of pacey, sort of attacking sort of fullback, and we know that that's what Emery likes, and and so we're starting to look a bit heavy over on that left hand side, and I think you just alluded to it. I think we'll definitely be losing at least one out of Moreno or Luca Dean. It wouldn't surprise me if we got offers, and decent offers at which Villa deemed acceptable. It wouldn't surprise me if both of them went, to be honest with you. But I think it will definitely be one of them, just because we're so stacked down there. But yeah, I think a really positive signing, a really sort of a big money signing, but the kind of signing that you'd expect, for a club to be getting into the Champions League. You need to be making these sort of high sort of quality and high potential signings. So yeah, excited to see what he can bring. Yeah,
22 years old as well. You've got Moreno and Dina, they're both the wrong side of 30. If I had to place a bet on it now, I'll probably see just Moreno going back to Spain somewhere. I think obviously it's a shame for Moreno because he had such a fantastic impact when he first came in, but that injury, I think it was at Anfield that he got it, and just wasn't right for the whole season following. It's a real shame, but if I had to place my bets, it'll probably be Moreno. But then, like you said, if you get offers for Dean, absolutely Villa will be all over that again, because you want to leave some of that wage bill that is so massive. Luca Dean is a big part of that, so if you can lose him for a decent fee, Villa will be all over that. Someone else who's hopefully going to have an impact on that left-hand side is the Illing Jr., someone else coming in from Juventus, obviously, as part of that Luis deal, more of a left wing back, so that gives you an option. Probably not if you're going to play 5 at the back. I don't think Villa are going to do that, but if we do, there's your option. But more attacking, Illing Jr., don't really know too much about him, only 20 years old. His quotes were quite interesting. He said all the right things as he came into Villa, saying that he's excited, he wants to get fans off their seats, someone with a little bit of flair, someone with a little bit of pace as well. Excited for that one as well.
Yeah, this is the one I think maybe I'm most excited about. And I think it's again his level of potential that he has got there, and I think he's going to bring something different that we haven't really got. I used to think last season we hadn't got a lot of pace in the side, and I think he's going to bring that, and I think his versatility as well really helps. Obviously, he can play left wing back, he can play further up the pitch on the left, and it feels to me like he could probably play the other side over on the right when he cut it on his left, kind of like a Bailey is, like a Bailey does. So I think his versatility will really help. And so yeah, I think again I think that looks an exciting signing. Only 20 years of age. He's played for England under 21s, played in Serie A with Juve. Obviously came through the Chelsea academy some years ago. And so yeah, I think that'll be. It looks a good sign on paper. It looks a very good signing, and I think he'll be looking forward to working with Emery. But yeah, I just like that he's different. He's going to offer something totally different than what we've already got, and that pace will certainly help get us up the pitch. And so yeah, you can sort of see him making sort of a decent impact, I think, from the off, and I think his versatility sort of helps with that. I think every team likes a player with a level of versatility, and he brings that. Yeah, absolutely. Great options up that left-hand side, and that pace up that left-hand side as well. Ramsey's a small question mark with his injuries as well. Basically last season was an absolute write-off. If you can have Illing Jr. and Ramsey sort of covering that left-hand side, does it free up Morgan Rogers to play sort of closer to Watkins? It just gives you so many more options. Buendia coming in as well. You've got so many options going forward, adding Diaby, Bailey, both coming off, well, Bailey especially coming off decent seasons, Watkins as well. You've got so many options going forward there, because we're going to play so many games. That is great, but just looking on the rest of the squad, it's probably more defensively that you're going to probably, well, between now and the end of the transfer window, that's where you're going to see additions come in, do you reckon? Because I think that forward sort of front half of the pitch, we're pretty stacked now, aren't we? Yeah, we are, and I think Villa's business in the next sort of a couple of weeks will really focus on getting players out of the door. Obviously, we've got quite a bloated squad, and so I think Monchi will be working to get the likes of Coutinho. Looks like he's going back on loan out to Brazil. But then the likes of Cameron Archer, Dendoncker, Callum Chambers, even like a Robin Olsen. I think they'll listen to offers for Carlos and listen to offers for Matty Cash as well, which sounds like major surgery. I mean, if you got rid of all them players, it would be really sort of major surgery. And I don't for 1 minute think all of them players will leave, but I think Villa would be quite open to receiving offers for all these players. I think the thing that's going to be difficult though is to actually shift some of them though. You look at the likes of Dendoncker, Chambers, Carlos, and you think that they've still got a year or 2 years or even more than that left to run of their contracts. Why would they be looking to go when they're on fairly big money, and Villa have just got into the Champions League? And so I think Monchi will be busy. I think if you manage to get a few of these players out, then I think we'll see a few more arrive. I think for me, the main area for me that I'd if I was looking at the Villa team right now, and I think we need to improve. Centre half worries me a little bit still. I think we defensively last season we weren't the best. Obviously we miss Mings. He is coming back, but we're not too sure on how he's going to be when he comes back, so that's a slight concern. And obviously Carlos is Carlos. He can either be absolutely amazing or he can be pretty poor, and also his injury record as well. He had a few knocks last season which kept him out for a few weeks at a time, and so I think the centre half position for me probably needs to be strengthened. Central midfield, I still feel like we need to get a proper Luiz replacement in. We've done well to get Barkley and Berenachia in. But I feel like we need that sort of big sort of signing in central midfield to replace Luiz, and I think then our strength in depth in central midfield is kind of there. And then the other areas, I think he'd like another right back, but I think that would majorly depend on if Cash left. I don't think one will be coming in unless Cash goes. And then the same sort of applies up the top of the field. I think if John Duran goes, for the sort of big money, I think that's where Emery will try and get a replacement in. Not easy up the top end of the field, but I think if Duran goes, I think we will try and do something. I think the only other question mark I had was whether we might try and do another sort of attacking sort of midfield come winger sort of signing. You look at Zaniolo going back. Obviously he was on loan last season. Buendia coming back, but you're not, again, he's been out for a long time. You're not too sure on how he's going to be. Obviously Ramsey was out for a long time as well, and so I think that's a potential, but I don't see us doing loads more. If I'm being honest, I wouldn't be surprised if it's only another couple. I think we've done most of our business, to be honest with you. I think another couple. I think the central midfield is absolutely vital, and I think a centre half for me. And then we'll just see what happens with departures. Like I say, we need to get a few out the door just to lower that wage bill, but also comply with the UEFA squad rules as well. It looks like one or two might have to be left out of that as it currently stands, and so I think a busy few weeks. It'll be interesting to see what we look like sort of mid to end August. I think we could look quite different, to be honest.
Yeah, it does look like it could be a one in, one out situation. I wouldn't be too disappointed if we don't get another attacking option in there. Obviously, there is a little bit of risk with Ramsey and Buendia coming in after such a long time out. But I think my priority list is a central midfielder and a centre-back. I think you look at the centre-backs last season, you saw how much Longley played. That probably wasn't expected, obviously, with such a massive impact that Mings being injured was for the whole season. That's huge. You saw how much Longley played. Obviously he's not around anymore. Torres, Carlos, Konza, Mings all missed spells last season with injury, so I think definitely a centre back needs to be in there, probably in terms of profile, someone who is in that Mings role, who is going to go and be dominant, aggressive, go and attack the ball, because I think one of the main issues last season with Villa was, yes, we scored a lot of set pieces, but we also conceded lots as well. Like, how many times did balls come into the box and nobody was there attacking enough, going to be aggressive, go and win the ball? You look at Carlos, that should be him. He's pretty poor in the air. Torres as well, that's not his game. Obviously he's a tall lad, but it's not his game to go and be aggressive and go and win the ball. I think Villa were the fourth worst in the Premier League in terms of goals conceded from set pieces. Balls into the box, always concerning when you watch Villa last season. So I think someone in that mould to go and be aggressive. Mings is such a question mark, and I'd love him to come back and just pick up where he left off. Don't forget, a couple of seasons ago he was our player of the season, and he was so good to watch. Fantastic on the ball, so dominant in the air and just cleaning up absolutely anything, and leaving your Konzas, Torres this season hopefully to just play with the ball at their feet while just let Mings do the hard work. That would be an ideal. It's just hard to tell, and if you can't rely on Mings, which we know we can't now, he is a question mark, you need to go and get a centre-half who's going to go and be aggressive and stop us conceding so many goals from set pieces.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's imperative that we get a centre-half. I think, like I say, that and central midfield for me is the two critical areas. I'm not even that bothered if we don't get a right back, if I'm being honest. I don't think Cash was anywhere near as bad as what some people made out last year. And
you've got the Serbian lad coming in as well.
Exactly. You've got the Serbian lad coming in, and then Konza played a lot there as well. And so if you get another centre half, you could see Konza out there as well. And so I'm not that bothered about a right back. I think, like I say, if we get an offer which Villa deem acceptable, I think they would like to move Cash on and bring somebody else in. But I don't think it's a pressing issue, to be honest, if we don't get that offer that we'd want for Cash. So yeah, for me, centre half and central midfield, we need to replace Luiz. We absolutely have to with a real sort of good sort of quality player who you're gonna pick in your starting 11 sort of 9 times out of 10. That's what you need. And I think we'll get that. I do think we'll get that. But I think, yeah. So I'm going to say we'll sign another 2 players. And if we have any more further departures, I think more probably would come in. Like I say, who knows what's going to happen with a John Duran, for instance. That's been going around the rumour mill for weeks now, hasn't it? And so we'll wait and see. But yeah, I could see another couple coming in, definitely.
Yeah, me too. And I think midfield's interesting because, like I touched on earlier, Luiz and Kamara both not being available at the start of the season. The combinations that you could possibly see there are going to be quite interesting now. Enzo's an unknown, potentially a new name coming in. Can Barkley play with Tielemans to free McGinn going further up the pitch? Likewise, can Tielemans play with Barkley and free McGinn going further forward? It's interesting now. There's so many combinations there that could work, could not work. Maybe would take a little bit of time in terms of we need to experiment with them. That's what pre-season's for as well. If you had to put your money on what we'd see in that midfield come sort of West Ham away, what would you reckon? We both talked about we'd like one more statement, direct Luiz replacement in there. Do you expect sort of Tielemans to drop a little bit deeper, free up McGinn, Barkley to start? What do you reckon?
I think as it currently stands, I think it would either be Tielemans and a Barkley, or I think Emery might even go much safer and even for the first game of the season, even go Tielemans and John McGinn and then put somebody else further forward. That wouldn't surprise me either. You hope we have a sort of a big name signing coming into central midfield who can walk sort of straight in there. That would be your ideal scenario. We're just not, as you say, it's patterns of play. You just don't know how these players are going to play with each other. And I think the thing with Barkley is like we remember him as that sort of attacking midfielder under Dean Smith at Villa, don't we? He was in that sort of kind of that 8 to 10 sort of role, wasn't he? But he's not going to be that role for Villa. It's going to be more of a 6 to 8 rather than 8 to 10, isn't it? And so I think it'll be interesting. But I'm not sure at the moment. I think the easy money would be on like a Barkley or Tielemans or a Tielemans and McGinn. But it just depends on who comes through the door. If it's like a ready-made sort of player who can come straight in, then it will be that if we can conclude a deal before then. But yeah, it's going to be interesting definitely. And I think that midfield, it's on a knife edge, isn't it? It's really on a knife edge because, as you say, losing Luiz and Kamara obviously to injury, it's a big void to fill, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But look, man, I'm excited for pre-season now. I'm excited. It's been a while. It's been far too long since we've had club football, and I can't wait to get to Walsall. And it is good that it feels like we've got so many pre-season games this season. We've obviously got the 2 abroad ones. We're going to America, Walsall as well, Bilbao as well. Can't forget that at the Poundland Escort. Weird. But I'm excited. Like, you've got plenty of games there to sort of experiment. No doubt we'll see loads of different combinations. A few players will have more time off, obviously, because they've been at the Euros. McGinn, also Scotland, went out quite early, so maybe not. Tielemans obviously went deep in the tournament. A few players that might, take a few weeks to actually come back later than everybody else. You always see that, but it's exciting, isn't it? It is exciting, and just roll on Walsall away, I say. Yeah,
it's always exciting when the season rolls around and when pre-season comes, because you're always filled with that optimism, aren't you? And I think I am as well. I think I said some weeks ago, I think there will be changes, and I think come August we might see a very different Villa, but I still think we'll be stronger for it. I think it will take a little bit of time for some of the players to gel or do, but I think overall, I think we'll be better off for it, and I think you can tell that by the sort of players we're signing is going to really improve our sort of strength in depth. And so I think it'll be a really positive season again. And just can't wait to get going. As you say, loads of games starting off with Warsaw, then obviously off to Slovakia straight after that, and then obviously all the other games follow. And so and the one thing I'd say as well, I think the games will sort of really test us as well. We're coming up against some really good good opposition this summer. Obviously, we've got Leipzig in America. We're going to Dortmund. We've obviously got the Spartak Trnava as well, and then Bilbao. So it's not like we're playing really sort of easy teams. We've got some real sort of challenges there. So it should be an interesting pre-season. But yeah, loads of games to watch and loads of games to go to. So yeah, buzzing for it.
Yeah, it feels like ages since we were playing Telford and Kidderminster at the same time. Do you remember that? That was weird. Like, which ones did you go? I went to Kidderminster. I remember in Kidderminster we were in the Luke kits. I think Grealish was playing. Harvey Nibbs up top as well. It feels like ages ago that was, but it actually wasn't that long ago. That was weird.
Yeah, I think I was at the other one. For some reason I went to Telford. I think. So yeah, really weird. Yeah, split 2-11s. Yeah, it was really hard.
No, different level. Playing Dortmund, Bilbao pre-season doesn't get much better. Do get involved in the comments. Let me know what you're thinking in terms of Villa's transfer business. How are you feeling going into the new season? Do let me know. Are you confident? Are you looking forward to it? I'm sure you are. Going to be another great season. Champions League Villa, top 4 Villa. Cannot wait. Please do subscribe and leave a like on the video. Like I said earlier, if we can hit 1,000, that'd be unbelievable. Thank you to you, Simon, for joining me. Thank you very much. Hopefully the rest of your week isn't as great as it has been so far, and you enjoy work while I am absolutely loving it in the sun. Go and check out Surfshark, top link in the description. We will most likely see you next time at Walsall away for that pre-season game. Cannot wait. All the Villa.